I'm Dan,
I'm Roger,
and we are the Wayward Sons.
and this is our first ever bonus episode. The topic for the day is going to be Stephen King, and we're actually joined by some special guests today. You guys want to introduce yourselves? Maybe tell us how you got into Stephen King in the first place?
Let's start with Ryan.
Hey everyone, my name's Ryan. I've always been a dyed-in-the-wool horror fan from when I was probably like 4 or 5 years old, just watching really bad like 80s B horror movies.
Yes.
So I feel like the natural progression for that was, once reading became really important to me, was to pick up some of the classic horror writers. And Stephen King, probably from when I was about like 10 or 11 up until now, has always been just like a current thread, through a lot of my reading choices. Yeah, he's just a solid writer through and through.
Mm-hmm.
Even, spanning outside, he kind of creeps outside the world of horror, which I think is great because it adds to his accessibility and some of his breadth.
Yeah, some variety.
Yeah.
I haven't really gotten into his detective stories and all that. The closest one I read is The Outsider, but it kind of delves into that a little bit. He's real good at it.
How many of Stephen King's books have you read, Ryan?
I'm staring at like 25 right now on my shelf. I'd say at least once. Probably 20, at least 20.
That's impressive.
All right, so moving on to our next guest, sitting right next to me, my wife.
Oh, she froze. But that is Daniel's wife, Mandy. Oh, they're back.
Oh, great.
Hey, we're back?
Yeah.
Cool.
Welcome.
Hey, this is Mandy.
Hey.
So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, we're having internet issues because we live in the sticks, so excuse us.
That's our viewers are used to it. they accept us.
Okay, but like I said, my name's Mandy. I got into Stephen King mostly from my mom. I do remember seeing movies when I was
Oh no.
to be horror movies on because my mom's a big horror fan, and I distinctly remember she always had a bookshelf that was full of books. She had Jaws and she had a ton of Stephen King books, all hardcover, all his old ones. So I remember staring at them as a little kid and kind of sneaking a few out of the shelf every once in a while to read them. Until I finally asked her permission if I could borrow her books and read them.
Against the rules.
Yeah, but so I've loved it for a long time too.
Okay. You basically took my answer too, because it was also my mom that kind of got me into it. She was a bit of a big horror fan. So we didn't have as many of the books in my house growing up, but she was constantly watching the films. It's actually going to tie into one of my answers to the questions later, but I actually didn't start reading the King books until about maybe 2 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and since then I've done maybe like on and off. I'm not sure how many. I got the list, but I'm still nowhere near close to where you're at, Ryan, or his complete collection, which hopefully someday I can get through. It's a lot, so.
You have to remember his pen name novels too.
Bachman, yeah.
Bachman. Yeah.
I don't think I've read any of Bachman books.
He has 2 of them. I forget the other one though.
I don't know.
So for all you viewers wondering why I haven't said anything is because I haven't read a single Stephen King book. So I'm here for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
And a drink.
And to lead the questions.
Yeah, I'm going to lead the questions.
Very important. It's an important job.
Are we going to do a sick transition into the questions?
Yeah. Insert theme song.
Insert theme song.
Go ahead.
Let's go. All right. What is your favorite Stephen King book?
All right.
Ryan?
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey, guess first, Roger.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, since Ryan introduced himself first, let's have him answer first. Please continue.
A really, really hard question. I mean, it definitely depends on my mood, I guess, right? But as far as the blanket, the most involved that I've been with a Stephen King book. It's kind of a cheat answer because it's the Dark Tower series, so it's like
Oh
7
yeah.
books. But I mean, it was a page turner to say the least. And there's so many pages. There's probably 4,000 total pages, or a little under, I think. So definitely the Dark Tower. It's great. The fact that he wrote The Gunslinger when he was 19 just blew my mind. And then, he kind of had this idea of continuing it, but then put it down and kind of packed it away for years. Because I think he didn't finish the Dark Tower series until probably like 2008 or something like that. I'm probably wrong, but it's very close to that.
I'm sure you're
So,
probably
you're
right.
talking, he wrote these books. These books grew up with him, so these ideas developed over time and kind of marinated. And as you read the books, you can kind of see kind of how the themes change. And it's just I'm a sucker for like fantasy. I mean, it scratches all the right itches. It's like fantasy and horror and sci-fi and humor and like a little bit of dark romance. And it just, and I don't know what the spoiler ethic is here on this pod, but let's just say it's worth it. It just all comes together, and it's definitely leaves you really
Well,
satisfied.
my opinion on spoilers is if it's been out for at least like a year or two for people to see it or read it or whatever, you can spoil it.
Right, the fair game clause. I appreciate that.
Yes, fair game.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't read like The Shining by now, or like, it's fine.
You're missing out.
I saw the movie.
Which
Very
one?
different.
The Shining.
Yeah, which Shining movie? Because there's more than one.
What?
Yeah, there's the Kubrick one, and then Stephen King made his own TV miniseries, actually, which I haven't.
Which wasn't as, it was more faithful to the book, but I kind of like the Kubrick version better. But we can get into that when we talk later about them.
I have one question. Were there hedge animals
In the other one?
in the TV one?
Yeah, I believe so.
Was there?
Yeah, I believe there was some funky CG kind of stuff going on.
I love those hedge animals.
Yeah.
I love a hedge animal.
That was the best part of the book. That's actually the part that, like, it scared me when I was reading it, because the tension is like.
Yeah, definitely. He tried to replace it with a
Crazy.
maze, and I don't know. Mandy, do you want to do your favorite book?
Me? Okay. So my favorite book is a toss-up. I couldn't really decide because I really, really love his novels, obviously, but he also does very great short story work.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's a two-part answer. Because it's just such a classic. Like I said,
Can you
I
just?
don't really read a lot of books that
Mandy, could you just
actually.
repeat, I'm sorry. Could you repeat what your answer was? You were frozen.
Oh my God.
Just the name of the book. We heard everything after that.
Wait,
Maybe just
I
edit
like it
this
better
out.
if we don't know and we have to guess after the fact.
Yeah,
Oh,
maybe
yeah,
do
do it.
that.
So
just keep going.
this book is super well known. It's actually the only book that I've read recently in the past years that kind of actually creeped me out when I was reading it.
Into the Tall Grass.
No.
Damn it.
Goosebumps.
No. No, it's The Shining. It's The Shining.
Damn.
But just everything about it, and the way that they adapted it into the two movies, even though they're different, is still good because they just pulled different things from the book. But I just love everything about that one. Like the tension, and like he has a really good sense of the isolation in it. It's great. My favorite short story by him is one called Survivor Type.
Oh my God.
I love it. It's nasty. Spoiler alert. It does involve cannibalism.
Bum bum bum.
Auto cannibalism.
I was gonna say I haven't read that one, but I was for a while addicted to listening to like the speeches he was giving at like colleges and stuff. And he gave a talk about Survivor Type and like just what it was about. and that's messed up.
It's from, I think
Got
it's
it.
in Skeleton Crew. So
Is
if you,
Mm.
Oh man, the only collection I have of his short stories is the one that you bought me, and I don't actually remember which one it is, but I know that
everything's eventual, probably.
it was, yeah, I think that sounds
That's
right.
a good one. But yeah, Survivor Type is off of an old one. But it's really grizzy.
I've been wanting to dig into that one. Dun, 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 dun.
Did you say your favorite book,
I
Raj?
didn't yet, no.
Oh,
So
you didn't. I'm jumping the gun here. Sorry, folks.
this is my
Ryan.
answer.
Me,
Pet
right.
Cemetery.
We all know
I-
why.
Well, no, yeah, I don't know if you do. I know you're thinking because of Zelda.
No,
Oh, no?
no.
What were you thinking?
The Wendigo.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a big part of it. But actually, no. The
Wait,
reason
where's the Zelda tie in there? I missed that.
the sister.
Oh, the name. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
not the Legend of Zelda.
Ah,
I know you're a
okay.
big fan.
Yeah.
No, the reason actually is because it's just the one that affected me emotionally the most. Like even before I had a kid, just reading that,
Mm.
like I'd have to stop every now and then. Like I couldn't just do it for a long period of time because it just made me feel dirty. Like it just made me feel bad.
Wow.
And
Leave
you're
it to a
probably
book
thinking,
to
like,
make you feel dirty.
well, you're probably
King is
thinking like, why
really
does that
good
why
at
does that make it your
making.
favorite? But like if it affects you emotionally, it's like Hereditary. Like,
Mm.
No spoilers. I haven't seen that. Please.
well, I'm not gonna give any spoilers. I'm just saying I'm not gonna watch that for fun, but I am gonna like feel something after. I'm gonna feel like I have to take a shower. And I felt the same way with Pet Sematary. So
Oh,
it
Well,
affected me
he's
the
really
most
good at
emotionally.
making you feel bad, and especially with stuff with kids.
Yeah.
That's like an
Mm.
ongoing thing in all of his books is stuff going on with kids.
Even like
It's
the
not
animal
pleasant.
stuff. Like I wanted to go home and hug my cat.
Mm.
It's just
I mean, honestly, that is, in my opinion, one of the most respectable things because it seems like in any kind of horror kind of work, they kind of gloss over the whole like, oh, what happens to like kids, like in an apocalypse or something like that, like what happens to kids or people that are in the hospital or whatever like that. It seems like that kind of is just glossed over, and they just focus more on the people that are like adults and healthy. So, I mean, to me, it's more realistic. So it's
I think you're right. And I think it's the like the after effect of a death too. Like a
Mm.
lot of the times you don't get to see that. It's a character dies in a movie and you just move on from them. But what I like about Pet Sematary is like you see the after effects. Like there's the whole scene in the book where he's talking about funeral preparations and like the day of the funeral and all the monotonous stuff. And it's just like I couldn't even imagine, you know? It's that
yeah.
kind of stuff that
I mean, that's also
I get
why I like The Last of Us so much because they hint at that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. They don't like explicitly show it, but they kind of give you some details to it if you pay attention.
Dan's more into realistic horror. He
Yes.
doesn't like ghost stories and everything.
Ghost stories and stuff, not really my thing, but like a slasher
Slasher
film,
boy.
that's a little.
He's a slasher boy. Ooh. The service is a little worse than usual tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, we ready for the next one?
Yes. So, if you had to choose a Stephen King town to live in, where would you live?
Mm.
Mr. Ryan?
So kind of a deep cut here, I guess, right? But there was a place I kind of fell in love with. And now I like as a reader, I have like little to no visual imagination, which really sucks. But one of the few places I could actually like see and like smell, there's like this little dusty town called Magus, I think it is. Mejis. And it's in the Dark Tower, the fourth book. Wizard and Glass. and it's basically like we visit there in a flashback where one of the protagonists, Roland, the gunslinger, he recalls he's like looking into this wizard glass, and he kind of sees back into the past and shares a story about this place where he basically where he found his first and only love, because he's just like a stone cold dude. Like the gunslinger is just like no emotion, like this guy can't. And then you kind of like they kind of pull out like, well, why is he like that, right? So then you see what happens to his first love in this place called Magus, and it's like a picture like any spaghetti western, and that's part of the magic of the Dark Tower, is that it's like as lame as it is awesome sometimes, because he really digs his heels into this like romantic spaghetti western, but also kind of like those when you go to like, there was a place called like Carson City or something I went to when I was a kid, and it was like a cowboy reenactment. You go there and they had like the saloon and the whatever, but there was nothing behind it. It was just these like cardboard plywood cutout things, so like at first glance you're like, oh my god, but then there's really nothing to it.
Yeah
Kind of like that. It was pretty cool. So definitely Magus for me.
All right, Mandy.
So my answer is a lot less complicated than that. No, there's nothing wrong with it being, it's so interesting because I never read The Dark Tower, so it's neat to know that it was so immersive.
Yeah.
But I'm the opposite. I'm a really visual person. So like when I'm reading a book, I'm kind of like watching a movie in my head anyway. But my answer is very simple. First of all, it would not be Derry, Maine, because the place is just evil. Live in Sidewinder from The Shining, because there's
sounds dope so far.
It's in Colorado.
Oh man, they're frozen, but I just want to say that she also stole my answer.
Really? That's
My answer is also Sidewinder. I wonder if she's gonna give the same reason.
Nearby, so
Oh no. Mandy, we did not hear your reason.
Oh, just because it's where I'd like to live in real life. And there's nothing wrong with that actual town that's scary.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually my answer too. Is what I was saying while you were frozen. You literally stole my answer.
I heard that.
Because
our service just sucks.
Yeah, we can't tell when our internet drops. So.
Oh, okay. My reasoning would be like, so you got the overlook, right? Just don't go there. Just don't go there. And like, I'm not Paul Sheldon. Like, I'm not. So I don't have to worry about Annie Wilkes. So Sidewinder, besides those two things, is great. I mean, it's a scenic Colorado town. It'd probably be nice.
That's my thought. Well, it's probably the most normal town that you can be in the Steve.
Yeah, I mean, for some reason, when I was considering which place, I only considered like the places that really fucking suck. Like, I was thinking about Derry. I was thinking about Jerusalem's Lot. I was thinking about Sidewinder. And I was thinking, like, which one of these terrible Castle Rock, right? Which one of these terrible places is the worst terrible place to live?
Probably Derry.
Or the best of the worst terrible place. And I get Sidewinder is where I landed. I mean, if you go post-book, Derry's just like a flooded mess. I think Jerusalem's Lot is like vacant.
You just live in the empty space that the Langoliers eat.
Oh yeah, you could live in the empty space that the Langoliers eat. It's roomy.
Dan's like, I don't know what that is.
I don't know what any of that means.
You don't know what
but it sounds awesome.
Is, Dan. Get with it.
All right, so what is your least favorite book?
Easy for me. It's one of the only books that I basically slept through and like had to force myself to read. I barely remember any of it. It's called Lisey's Story.
I heard
it's
that
about a widow, Lisey. She's a widow to King loves to write about writers, which is great, but
Mhm.
maybe he should have skipped this one, and she's a widow to a writer, Scott Landon or something, and just I think like nothing happens, and then you're done with the book, and it's like great, thanks, but
Great,
Like,
great,
thanks.
thanks for that. Yard sale, yeah.
All
I
right.
think, Roger, we should do an episode in the future where we bring these two back on,
hmm
except we bring them on with two people that love the books that they hate.
So you need to find two people that love Lisi's story then.
Not gonna happen.
Good freaking luck.
Not gonna happen.
No,
Good luck.
I've heard of that one and I just had no interest.
Yeah,
So I skipped
it
it.
was filler. I think he needed another summer home or something, and was
Probably,
like,
yeah.
Another summer home. Okay.
Man.
Well, Mandy,
My least favorite one, I had trouble with this one, but the only one that I could really think of that I didn't enjoy, and I don't even think I ever finished, was Rose Madder.
Mm.
I mean, I tried to read it when I was younger, so maybe it was just like the timing, because I think I was probably like 13 or so maybe I just didn't get it. But because I was researching into it more.
We lost you guys. I'm just letting you know because I know that you can hear me. Rose Madder, that's another one that's not like straight horror. Do you know what that one's about?
So
Right.
like domestic, I think it's about domestic violence.
Okay.
I don't really remember it too
I
well.
listened to a Stephen King podcast where they go over the books, and I remember them talking about it, but I couldn't even like pay attention to what they were saying. Like it just,
Yeah.
I don't know. Might be something I look into. Like I said, I want to get through all of this stuff.
Yeah, I remember reading that one, but it was like middle of the road, kind of.
Yeah.
Like definitely good, but
Oh,
Hey, we're
you
back.
could miss that one.
hey, welcome back.
So what did you guys actually hear?
We heard you say it was Rose Madder, and then that was it.
Oh, I was saying I think it might have just been the timing of when I was reading it, because I was kind of young. So maybe I just didn't really understand the subject matter. But yeah, I never really gave that one a second chance.
Okay.
He actually, if you read his memoir on writing, he kind of shits on that a little bit. I think that and Insomnia are the ones where he just thought he like had to milk it and tried too hard and wasn't really too proud of them. So,
Do we know when those? Do we know when those came out? Was it pre or post? Like messed up Stephen King.
it was the mid '90s.
Okay, so post.
Yeah.
So post.
I'm gonna do mine. So I actually have two answers. I have my least favorite book and then my most disappointing book.
Ooh.
Because my most disappointing one I like better than some other ones. But
You just gotta be extra, don't you? You just
yeah,
gotta you gotta be a
everyone's
little
used
extra.
to it. Everyone's used to it. They know what I'm about. So my least favorite book is actually his newest book, If It Bleeds. And that's just because I haven't been able to finish it. Like the first story is about a haunted cell phone. And so I was pretty much out at that point.
Such a boomer topic though.
Yeah.
Was it a flip phone? I hope it was a flip phone.
Frick. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, it might have been, honestly. This kid, he like buys a cell phone for this old man, and then the old man dies, and he haunts the cell phone, and like the phone is buried with him, but it rings, and the kid's like, oh no, like is he alive in his coffin? I don't know.
So does he like haunt his DMs? Like
kind
what?
of, yeah, a little bit. No, he like kills people that do him wrong or whatever. I don't know. I honestly don't remember because I bought the book when it first came out and I started it and I put it down. I'll finish it because I bought it, but and then
How does he kill people with a cell phone?
He doesn't kill them. He like haunts them. He doesn't kill them with the cell phone.
Oh,
I guess the ghost like comes out of the phone. And
so my follow-up question to that is, bless you, is it a jitterbug? Does it have like big buttons and stuff on it? Or
no, it wasn't a specifically old person phone.
It's an Obama phone.
Oh, all right.
The kid taught the old guy how to use it, but I think it was just a regular phone. My most disappointing Stephen King book is Salem's Lot, actually, which
Wow.
I know. And I liked everything about Salem's Lot, except for me, the protagonist was just so boring and I just couldn't get into it. Like,
Not everyone could be fun, Roger.
no, it's not that he wasn't fun. It's just that he was an obvious stand-in for Stephen King. He was another one of those writer characters. And I'm usually not against it because there's a lot of great Stephen King characters that are writers. Jack Torrance, um, freaking Big Bill from It, like, he has good ones.
Yeah.
But this guy, he made he's an everyman. Everyone loves him. He can write it. He can be an intellectual and write a book, but he's not afraid to have a hot dog and a beer. He's so good. Everyone likes him. And he comes into this town, and the most beautiful woman in town falls in love with him at first sight, and he doesn't have any problems. And then there's vampires, and I don't know.
And then there's vampires.
I'd rather hear
to me, you're explaining a book that sounds awesome.
No, it's a great book. That's why it's not my least favorite book.
Explain a book badly.
But I was just so disappointed by the protagonist that it made it hard for me to get invested. Like, there were characters that I think were way more interesting. Like, the priest was way more interesting. The kid was way more interesting. I just think, I don't know. And he had a dead wife, but it didn't impact his character at all. Like, they tried to give him I don't know.
Substance.
That's my TED talk. I know everyone loves Salem's Lot, and I do too.
Yeah.
But I just
No, I hear you. It's like he shook his magic 8 ball of like writing tropes. He was like, okay, dead wife. Boom. Okay.
Yeah. But then he has a dead wife, but it doesn't affect his character at all. Like, he doesn't like he has a relationship with another girl in it, but it doesn't affect that relationship at all. It's just, it doesn't affect any of his decisions. There's no horror that comes from it. It's just nothing.
He would have done better to make him like James from Silent Hill.
Or anything. I don't know. Anyway, that's my TED talk. I'm sorry.
Anywho, before Roger goes off on another TED talk.
And another thing.
What
One more thing
is your first King memory?
Ooh.
All right. So there used to be this. So I grew up watching a lot of like really cheesy horror, and one of the things that used to come on around Halloween that I used to kind of sneak up late to watch was a movie called Creepshow. It's like early 80s George Romero flick that Stephen King wrote. And it's like 5 different short stories, I think, that are all within, it's like a frame story. Like I think some kid gets abducted by a witch who's going to eat him. And while she's preheating the oven, he's like, oh my God, if I tell her a scary story, she'll let me out. Beautiful plot, right? So
that is how that works.
Goes on to tell the 5 scary stories. One of them was what was it called? The Lonesome Death of Geordie Verrill. Ooh. It was a short story that Stephen King kind of snuck into that Creepshow lineup, and it was really awesome because it just had one actor in it in the movie, that segment, and the actor was Stephen King himself, which was really cool. So he plays this really dopey, like moron hick backwoods guy in a cabin, and he's like dirt poor. He like the bank's foreclosing and he just needs money. He doesn't have any, and like a meteor lands, boom, like right in his front yard. So he like takes his buck teeth and his shotgun and he walks out and finds the meteor. And it's just so good because Stephen King is also a wonderful actor. He does a cameo and I think almost every one of his films at some point, but it's just great. He plays this like hit guy. They find the meteor, he finds the meteor and he's like, oh man, it's so shiny. Clearly I can sell this and save the farm. So he like rubs it and smells it and it ends up it's like covered in some like alien like plant plague. So he gets really itchy. And so he's like, all right, I'm itchy from a plant plague. Let me take a bath. It ends up like the bath, it waters the plague and he just like is covered in some like syphilitic leper alien plant goo.
Yikes.
And then he just ends up like blowing his head off in his cabin with a shotgun, and that's the end. Like, so that was my
Wow.
first time I saw Stephen King, and I was like, this guy's onto something. I like this.
I'm on board. I'm on board with this.
Yeah, it's good.
Good stuff.
Wow, that was cool.
Ryan, did you see they remade that recently, right? Creep
Creep
Show?
Show? No. I mean, they remake everything, so
Yeah,
sure, I'll take it.
I think I saw they did remake it.
They had a couple like of the original series. I think it was at least 2.
Yeah.
And they're just good. They're almost like, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember Tales from the Crypt,
Yes.
but it was similar to that, where they had these little vignettes and they would just kind of boom, 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 boom. So if they have a sequel to Creep Show, like definitely game to watch it.
I'll look it up. I'll send it to you later if it's true, but I think I saw something about that.
Cool.
I'm oh, there you are. Mandy, you want to go? You were going
Sure.
first.
I kind of already answered it though in my intro. I don't really have a specific movie or anything that I remember watching first. I kind of just was always exposed to it as far as I remember. So my answer is kind of already said, I guess. Just seeing the books and stuff, being really young. Probably like, I think probably the earliest movie I would have seen would have been Pet Cemetery.
Mhm.
But that's it.
I kind of did my answer too as well. I said my mom was really into horror movies and stuff. The first time I remember seeing anything Stephen King, I was way, way too young. Like, I'm not sure how old. Probably, I don't know, 7, 8, 6. I'm not sure. But I guess it was a marathon because my mom was watching The Shining and Pet Cemetery. I think they were back to back on whatever channel. And I would go into her room. It was too scary for me to stay the whole time. I was a little kid. But I would go into her room from time to time and catch little pieces. And for the longest time, like until I was maybe like 12, 13, 14, I thought that Danny from The Shining was also the kid from Pet Cemetery. Because I couldn't distinguish when one movie ended and one began. Because it just looked like a little kid to me, as a little kid. Like I just thought they were the same character. So I thought that Red Rum was in Pet Cemetery. I thought like, I don't know what I thought. Those two movies were just like blended together in my head. You know,
Like that for me with The Godfather and Willy Wonka.
Okay.
That's
And offer you a
interesting.
candy that you can't refuse. Yeah, so that's my earliest memory.
See, I don't have an earliest Stephen King memory. My earliest like horror memory that I was able to remember was like either watching, and I don't know why I was watching it either, but I saw the Amityville Horror.
Yes.
And it was the part when the mom went up to the window and those red eyes were there, and I was just like terrified.
Out.
This is my life now.
And in The Exorcist, the part when the girl went down the stairs upside down, I like was taking a nap behind my mom on the couch, and I remember opening my eyes and turning my head and seeing that, and I screamed, and I wasn't able to go down the stairs without running for probably like 12 years maybe.
Fun fact about Mandy, she loves in horror movies when things do a real creepy crawl.
No.
The crab walk.
No.
Yeah. Like the grandma from The Visit. She loves
I didn't watch that because you told
Oh,
me that there's a part like that.
That's a good one. The descent monsters crawling around.
Ugh.
Love it.
All right, moving on. What is your favorite King movie?
Yeah, pretty easy one for me, I'm gonna have to say, because that kind of like jumps in with my love for Stanley Kubrick. Definitely The Shining. So Mandy, you brought up earlier like that sense of isolation that you could feel from that, and I think with Kubrick's adaptation, he does that he does a similar thing in 2001: A Space Odyssey when he shows you how vast space is, and it's almost dead air. It's like you know, you see space and there's like some classical music and you see just the floating, and it's that like where it brings you to the fact that things are huge. And it's like that with the flyby scene, the intro to The Shining. And you really get an idea like these guys are deep. These guys are not just, you know, going to the shore for vacation.
You might as
They're
well be in space at
completely
that point.
isolated. And I think, you know, I owe it to Kubrick for that, because his cinematography is just beautiful. It's just so good. There's so many shots in that movie. I mean, I between each hallway, like just the rancid like wallpaper and rancid carpet, the 70s out, like the red bathroom in the bar. There's so many just single shots that, you know, if you even just took stills from the movie, I mean, I would kill for a good print of the bathroom in there. Just a really good, it was a really good example of like form matching function, you know, like Kubrick, I think, nailed that. And I know that there are discrepancies with the ending. And I know that, I mean, I've seen like interviews with King where he doesn't really seem to have a nice opinion about that, about the Kubrick ending. And I get it, you know, but I just, that movie just blows my mind. That and Kubrick's choice of soundtrack for anything is just stellar. It's just really immersive, and it's like, don't talk if you're like, everyone shut up and watch the movie. I'm like not fun to watch that movie with.
I feel the same way. Honestly.
Yeah.
Kubrick was just really good at that. He kind of made his actors' lives terrible though.
I feel so bad
Absolutely.
for Kelly Duvall.
Yeah.
She was losing hair on set, that poor woman.
He tortured them, and he'd do a take like 180 times just to get it right. So, I mean, it all paid off though, because like you said, the cinematography is great.
And
But
I actually have a great, hold on, I have a great still.
Where's he going?
Where's he going?
This is, so here, oh, the glare is going to kill me, but this is actually Stanley Kubrick. He was a photographer. He was like a news photographer before he started filming. And I went to a really awesome, it was down at the Museum of, some generic name. It was like the Museum of New York City or something like that, down in Manhattan. And
Wow.
they had an awesome showcase of his journalistic photography, and just Kubrick rocks. He's just one of my faves. So
I'll have to check it
Kubrick
out.
plug.
I didn't realize that I mean, it makes sense, but I didn't realize that he actually did a lot of photography work.
He did. He did really middle of the road. It was almost, I want to say it was Life magazine. It was a very like generic, bland kind of gig, but his stuff for it is really good. You know, he think he was like out of his element, you know, but yeah.
All right, Mandy, what's your favorite book? Not your favorite book. Your
Favorite movie.
favorite movie. Sorry, I'm losing
My-
myself here.
I
Unforgivable.
think my favorite movie, I had a little trouble with this one, but I think it has to be Misery.
Oh yeah.
I just love it. It's so brutal, and I think they did a really good job of adapting the book to a movie with that one. And just like the acting, like Annie was great, spot on. She was nuts. She was terrifying. I just loved it.
You know, I
That's
got to
the one.
point out that it is really, really funny to me that when one of you comment on something and the other two are like, oh, yeah. It's great. I love it.
Misery's a
Dan's
great
like,
movie.
oh.
Roger.
So my answer is also The Shining. And
Here's Johnny.
I'm kind
That's
of
really the
torn.
only part that you know.
I didn't like those eyes. And I'm kind of torn because I share a lot of the reservations that Stephen King has about the film. But I think you have to go in looking at it as like its own thing. Because if you're looking for an exact adaptation of the book, like it's very, very different. The character of Jack is completely different. Wendy is completely different. Danny is completely different. Like they're basically 3 different characters than the characters in the book. As far as just character decisions and their just overall traits. Like in the book, Danny's a lot more independent. He's kind of like a little adult. And in the movie, he's just kind of like a blank slate type of character. Wendy is a
They
lot
didn't
more.
tell him what the movie was about.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't. I think they do that with child actors a lot. You got to shield them from a lot of
Yeah.
that stuff. Like Wendy in the book is a lot more strong-willed and assertive. And in the book, Jack doesn't necessarily start out as crazy. I mean, he always was a piece of crap. Like Jack Torrance, before the Overlook, was not a good guy either. Like
Not number one dad.
no, like he's possibly ran over a kid in the street while drunk driving. Not great. So, but if you look at it as a separate thing, like not a direct adaptation of the book, like the movie's obviously like almost perfect, you know? And besides the points that everyone else brought up, I think we didn't talk about the shots where either things don't make sense or subtle things change during the scene. Like the placement of a chair, he'll do a shot, a chair will be here, he'll cut to a different person, then when it cuts back, it'll be in a completely different spot or just gone. Or how when Danny is riding on the tricycle down the hallways, the ways he goes doesn't make sense. Almost like the hallways are like moving, like a Hogwarts castle or something. Those are the kind of shots I really appreciate that he does. And Mandy, when you're talking before how he does like hundreds of takes, I actually think I heard somewhere he did that not to, like he kept trying to get the perfect shot. I think he was trying to wear the actors down to a point. I think I heard this to a point where they're actually like going a little bit crazy by the 100th shot. So like all the shots before that are just building up to that.
Oh yeah, probably that too. Well, that's why he would keep Shelley Duvall on edge too, so that like when she would react and scream, it was really screaming.
Did you guys see the clip of Jack Nicholson on the other side of the door before the Here's Johnny scene psyching himself up?
No.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Huh?
He's a treasure. Yeah, I've seen that.
Haven't seen that? Look that up. He's just like talking to himself, like jumping and just like getting himself like nuts before that door scene. You got to look that up.
I have to watch that.
It's crazy. So yeah.
Yeah, that and all the cocaine on set too, I'm sure helped. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Pet Cemetery is a close second, and again, Misery is perfect as well. So,
Scariest King character, go.
So I feel like I have kind of an abstract answer for that one, and I think about this every now and then, right? So like, yeah, I would say like maybe Randall Flagg, you know, like because he's threaded through so many stories, and he's kind of like King's like go-to bad guy, but I think for me, the scariest kind of character in any of King's stories is probably Derry, right? So Derry is just a town, but it's not. You know, Derry itself is inherently evil. I mean, it's rotten down to the sewers. You know, the place, the thing that makes it, its foundation and infrastructure are just rotten, and it's just a vile place. You know, and we can mirror that or echo that across, you know, like places that we know, like places that might not be great. Like what makes a city like what makes a neighborhood like a bad neighborhood? You know, is it in the water? Is it in the air? Is it in the ground? Is it just some of its parts, you know? So when we look at Derry, it blows my mind, you know. I mean, I can parallel Derry with a couple different real life places, you know. You have this like years ago, it was like a bustling industrial town, and everyone flocked there, and it was great. And then once the Derry Ironworks exploded, it kind of never really caught up. It never really, you know, it couldn't survive that post-industrial world. And like, you know, there's a lot of cities now that were really blue collar back when industry was just different, and there were a lot of jobs and a lot of like honest blue collar workers. And then these places just kind of fall out, and they're like ramshackle. Businesses are out of business. I don't know. For me, Derry is a really, really good bad guy. With the child abductions, and I know they all come from it, but is he an extension of Derry itself? I mean, is he Derry? Is that the bad guy? The racism that's there, it's just a bad dude. So that's probably my answer.
Oh.
Frozen.
And they're back.
Can you hear us?
No.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Now we can.
Okay. I said, wow, that's a lot more deep than I was gonna go.
Sorry.
I did not even think of it that way. But actually it makes sense because he really does personify things a lot. And I actually do, like, now that you were saying it, like, I didn't ever really, well, I think I noticed it, but I never really take that into consideration. But interesting. My answer was more simple, because I was just thinking, I have a bias because for the longest time I've been really, really terrified of Zelda from Pet Sematary. But I was trying to look at it at a different way. So my answer was kind of two-part, which I guess for face value, scariness, just because of the movie, Zelda from Pet Sematary was just terrifying. I mean, you could think of it as like the point of view of the sister, like kind of having to care for your sick, kind of actually disgusting sisters. Terrifying. And like I can see how like maybe in the movie they played it up a little bit more because it could have been coming from the kid's point of view, so she really might not have looked that scary, but maybe to her sister she did. So you could think of it that way. But the other part to my answer was, if you look at it more in terms of realism, I think the scariest character in any of the books would have been Annie Wilkes, mostly because there are actually people like that in the world. There were people who is someone's biggest fan and they killed them. Look at the fan who shot John Lennon. Like, there are so many biggest fans who just go to the extreme because they want that part of their favorite person, and it's just scary to think that there are actually people that are like that. So that's my answer for scariest people.
Just to tag onto that, there's a movie called Be My Cat. Just Google it.
Does it have any relation to the movie Cats?
No.
They have a similar word in the title.
Oh, okay.
In relation to Annie Wilkes, just Google that movie after this. Be My Cat. It's a weird thing.
Somebody tries to get somebody to dress up as their cat.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Nope.
About
You're
furries?
never gonna guess it. Just Google it after. It's crazy. Mandy, you're like 10 for 10 for us having the same answers. Because mine's like a 3-part answer, and I share 2 of them with you. I think overall, the Stephen King character that scared me the most for the longest is Zelda from the movie. Not so much from the book, like she's scary in the book, but I just read that book like 2 years ago. Zelda from the movie has haunted me my entire life. Like my mom won't admit it, but I promise you that she like acted like Zelda and chased me around the house.
My mom would do that too. She used to bend backwards and stick her arms up and run at me like that. The one time I almost threw a vase at her because I was so scared and she wouldn't stop.
My mom won't admit to it.
My mom will laugh about it and say, haha, yeah, I did that.
I don't know if she forgot, but she did that. And just, I don't know. That's a creepy.
Rachel,
never walk again. Anyway, the character, not the actual real world disease, obviously.
Right.
Character of Zelda. As far as scariest character in the book, I have a 2-part answer. I think Annie Wilkes was definitely the first thing that popped into my head. because she's just in that book, she's just an unstoppable force. Like Paul Sheldon, he has no control over anything that happens to him, and like everything is just completely dictated by this just mad woman that's just unpredictable and can snap in an instant, and you don't know what she's going to do to herself or to you or to anything. And she's just, it's just scary. Like, just imagine being in that position, completely helpless like that with no control. But abstractly, I think the concept of the Wendigo from Pet Sematary, just as the driving force of all the events, kind of like what Ryan was saying with Derry. Ludlow has the same problem. I mean, the Wendigo is just the Pennywise of Ludlow.
Yeah.
You know? So I think in a similar vein to what Ryan was saying would be my answer, but for that town there. And that's my answer.
Well, just to piggyback on the Annie Wilkes thing, I think what's a testament to like just King's catalog is when you ask like who the scariest character is, like, do you mean like supernatural or natural? Because both, like, nothing is really supernatural about Annie Wilkes. I mean, she's unfortunately pretty accessible, you know, like we, you know, she's in the realm of reality, and you know, so that's a little scary.
Yeah, and I think it really, like, you gotta give that character credit for, because in the catalog of Stephen King, you have vampires, you have cybernetic bears, you have just anything you could wrap your mind around.
Hold her own. Yep.
And one of the scariest characters is just this average woman from Colorado.
Yeah.
You know, go Annie, you know?
I actually thought of another answer too. Something that actually scared me, and Roger probably remembers because I think we were all watching it together, was the Midnight Man from Gerald's Game. Because it was kind of like a manifestation of child abuse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's another like supernatural / real life one, because I mean, I don't think he was actually real. It was definitely just her coping mechanism, but that's also something that's prominent in real life that's really, really scary.
And I know we're all parents here, so like anytime there's something that involves children, you know, it hits different now. You know?
Yeah.
I think, like I was saying before, while they're frozen, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. I was talking about why Pet Sematary was so scary for me. My kid wasn't born yet, but like it was at a time when my wife was still pregnant and my cat was sick, and I feel like a lot of stuff just lined up for that book to just hit me just real hard.
Yeah.
And they're back.
Well, you're all wrong because it's Pennywise that's the scariest.
All right.
Moving on.
Says the guy who's never seen it.
Whoa, I've seen the original It.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Yes. So, best King protagonist.
Oh yeah.
Probably gonna have to say Danny Torrance. I think he's my favorite. I mean, and you know, it's interesting, Roger, you talked about the differences, you know, like, well, as far as you know, Danny's like seeming lack of independence as a character in Kubrick's adaptation. And what I like about that, and I think it was a device, like not telling him exactly about the movie was maybe some kind of device to distance him from the movie. And I think his emotional distance in the film is really indicative of a kid who's been through a lot of trauma, especially the kid of an alcoholic, and a kid of a codependent mother. So definitely feel for my dude Danny. Now, yeah, you know, and the fact that he did opt into the sequel on that one is really wonderful too, because I know, like, in an interview with King, when asked like, why did you make a sequel, like at its most base thing, and he said, well, to put it simply, I could never not think about what the hell happened to Danny. You know, I can put to bed this character or this one's dead, but you know, over the years he would think like, well, Danny would be like 22 today, and just yeah, it's just really cool his connection with Danny. You know, going into Doctor Sleep too, when we find out about Danny's, you know, it's like, I'm not gonna be my father. Wait, I'm my father. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, he's also an alcoholic and he's got some stuff going on. He's like kind of a wounded bird situation, and I just really, I don't know what it says about me, but I connect with Danny Torrance a lot. I think he's wonderful.
Mandy.
That was something that went through my mind as well. This was actually a really, really hard question for
That's a
me.
good one.
This is actually one of the questions that I didn't even mark down an answer for because I just figured I was just gonna have to think about it more and figure it out when I was doing it.
Well, it's time. Did she figure it out? We'll find out in a moment. I think she did. Do you want to guess what it's going to be?
Um,
Oh, we're frozen.
Oh,
We
wait,
back?
we're gonna guess.
no, Bev.
Right.
Bev is my second.
Bev.
So,
Oh, Bev's so great.
wonderful.
I'm gonna guess. I don't know. I don't know what she's gonna say. Bev. I also vote Bev. All right, go ahead.
All right, I'm back.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want my thought process or do you want my answer?
We want all.
Yes.
Give us everything.
Yes. Okay. So
The answer is yes.
Yes, yes.
So I went through Danny and figured that that was probably what everyone else was going to pick too. So then my mind went through to Carrie because I always really liked
Yeah.
her. And like there was always a like it was weird with her because there were people that didn't like it because when she finally snapped she was malicious about it, but she definitely
Well, we were both wrong. For some
Nice.
reason,
I like that.
I forgot about Carrie.
Yeah.
Between
No, Sissy
Carrie and-
Spacek is awesome. Yeah.
the mom from Cujo also.
Oh yes.
Which I forget her name honestly,
I don't know.
but I mean she handled that situation about as well as she could. So it was between those two, and I think I had to overall go with Carrie just because she's more interesting of a character.
Good answer.
And I don't mind that she snapped and went crazy because she definitely deserved to.
Yeah, you know what? Screw those kids.
And her mom, everything.
Oh, especially her mom.
You know, when you say that, that just reminds me of the Whitest Kids You Know comedy group where they did a scene about teachers making up the curriculum for
Oh, yeah.
school, and the one teacher was just always like, that would really piss off the kids.
No, the kids in that book were terrible. It's about how horrible teenagers are and
Big old
parents who are overly religious, and it's bad. It's bad. But I think Carrie has to be my favorite.
Good answer. I didn't read Carrie, but from what I understand, and Ryan, you can probably vouch for this. Mandy, I don't know if you also read Carrie, so you can vouch.
I read Carrie probably like 6 times.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite ones.
So it's not told in like a direct narrative, right? It's like a series of interviews. Is that correct?
It's mixed. Some of it's told through like newspaper clippings and everything. Like he changes up the format during the book.
Okay.
It's interesting.
Okay, I went to do it, but I mostly do audiobook. Like I don't know how to read. So I do
I'm
a lot
Roger.
of audiobooks.
I'm 29 and I never learned how to read.
I don't know how to read. No, I do know how to read, but I do a lot of audiobooks. And when I went to do Carrie, the audiobook was just read by a man, and I was like, I don't want to hear a story about this young woman read through the voice of a man. And I was like, I'm just gonna not. I'll listen to something else. And then I think I listened to Gerald's Game, which was good. What was the question? Oh, yes. My answer is as well Danny Torrance. For a lot of what Ryan said as well. And I think even if you look at Danny Torrance from the movie and the book as 2 different characters. Oh, I think he froze. He'll be back. I'll reinvite him back in. Even if you look at them as 2 different characters, it's still reinvite. It's still two great characters. And I think, hold on, I'm just gonna reinvite it. Get him back in here, and then I'll finish my answer. Boop. What? Oh. All right. Well, he'll
I
probably
snapped too soon.
Yeah, he'll be back, I'm sure.
I never read Doctor Sleep yet.
You know what? I think it says a lot about Danny Torrance as a protagonist, because there's a lot of stuff in that movie that's not or that book and movie that's not ideal. Like the antagonist, the True Nut, they're kind of like, I don't know. They all have dumb names, and only two of them are interesting. And just some of the writing around them isn't great. But that's still like in my top 3 favorite King novels, just because of Dan Torrance. Like, I don't know. I just think it's cool how you got him in this story of him as like a vulnerable child, and you got his whole childhood, and then you get like a majority of his adulthood too. Like, I think that's a wider scope than you get with most King characters.
I heard it was really good. I've been meaning to read it, but I just haven't read it yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and invite him back again. Mandy, do you want to hop on to the next question? And Mandy, you can answer first while I try to get Ryan back on.
Sure.
What King book would you want a sequel to?
Ooh, this was another really hard one. But my answer is actually the same book, and it's again Carrie. Because in the end of Carrie, the least amount of spoilers as possible, they talk about another telekinetic girl. So I'd like to see how that girl's life would play out and how she would grow up. It obviously would probably have like nothing to do with the original story, but it would just be neat to see.
Yeah.
Since Ryan is back, Ryan, we have moved on to the question, what King book would you want a sequel to?
I would probably say Pet Cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be the one. I know that there was a readaptation of that, but I didn't get a chance to see that one. I do this thing where I kind of boycott new things because I'm cranky and old, but
it's not as good.
It's not.
It could have been scarier, and they did change a major thing with it that kind of made it better for that particular movie.
I did end up really liking that aspect.
You what?
I did end up really liking that change.
They were able to do more with the change that they made.
Yeah.
It's
so
I
feel like in the same way that we'd want to revisit Danny Torrance, I feel like we could kind of check in on Ellie, like the daughter. So
like just what happened after she pulls up in the car, because that's what happens at the end of the movie, right? The car pulls up, like with the grandparents and Ellie in the car.
Yeah, she's the only survivor.
Like, what happens immediately after that? You know, like
they probably all die.
Well, yeah, no, they definitely
right.
all
But
die.
then where do they, what happens to Ellie?
No, because the mom kills the dad, so there's just a zombie mom in there. So when she pulls up on the scene, like, does the mom kill Ellie? Like,
I mean, what's the like? What are the guardianship rules with zombiehood? You know, like I don't think mom's in the picture anymore.
I don't think there's a court precedent for that.
No.
I don't know, but like I assume Ellie runs in and the mom. I don't know, but yeah, I'd like a sequel to that.
Roger.
Oh, it's my turn.
Yeah, it's your turn now.
Yeah. Okay. I actually want a third book in the Shining series.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, they introduced a character named Abra in Doctor Sleep, and you get her like a young girl with Danny Torrance as her kind of role model and mentor there. So I kind of like to see the next step of it, like have her own book where
she evolves into Kadabra.
Maybe. I could not stop thinking that the entire book. I was like, that's a Pokemon name.
Is she psychic type? She is psychic type.
A book where she's the main character, And then Danny Torrance is like, he's there as like the mentor, but it's like her story kind of more so, because they kind of shared it half and half in Doctor Sleep. But I would just like to see like a conclusion, like have a King trilogy of Shining books
So basically like
without
a Miles Morales Spider-Man kind of thing.
kind of, yeah. She's the new Dan Torrance in town.
Yeah.
All right. We are on to the final question, folks.
Oh my God.
What book would you wish that they would make into a movie?
Mm.
Hmm.
Mm.
So I think it's one of those kind of middle of the road King books. Might be a little underappreciated because I thought it was great. It's from like the early 2000s. It's a book called Cell, and it starts to touch on the topic of like, well, I mean, in the book, literally people's cell phones turn them into zombies. Like that's like the premise of the book. So I feel like if we could have
So like IRL.
IRL.
Ah.
There we go.
Got 'em.
So I feel like it would be nice to see that adapted into a movie. I don't remember the details, but I remember really liking just the character. Whatever the story arc for the main character was, it was pretty rad. And but I think it would be cool just because of how nuts everything with social media is, if they would adapt it, and if maybe if from what it sounds like from King's haunted cell phone story,
I was about to say.
Sounds
Sounds like a precursor to if it
like
Bleeds.
a millennial ambassador or someone to translate what it's like to be, not, old-ish. But yeah, I'd say Cell. Cell would be really cool to check out.
Okay.
Andy?
This was another one that was really hard for me. And I actually kind of still don't have an answer to this one.
It's a hard question.
Could come back
it's hard
to me.
finding one that like a good one that hasn't already been turned into a
Exactly. The only thing I could think of is like one that like I wish that they kind of did better.
yeah.
Almost.
We will accept that answer.
Yes.
Okay, I kind of like would
Judges?
have liked to have. I liked 1408, but I kind of wished it was a little better. I don't know. I think they could have done it scarier because the book was actually really good.
That was with John Cusack, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Morgan
It
awesome.
wasn't bad, but
We-
Or
like
no, Samuel Jackson's in
Geekish
that.
adaptation.
yeah, it wasn't bad, but like I don't know. I just like I wanted it to be scarier.
Yeah.
But
Been so
I was
long
trying to
since-
think of another short story too, but I can't remember the name of it. So if Roger wants to answer, and then when I look up the name of it, so I
What
have
about
the title.
what about a
come back.
Survivor type movie?
I actually found what it is. Autopsy Room 4. That one
Ooh.
would be cool.
What's that?
That's
about?
another short story,
Suspense.
which Roger, you should probably remember it.
What is it about?
A guy getting autopsied alive.
Oh. Oh no.
Oh, in room 4.
Yeah, I kind of thought of that one like as I was getting ready to answer. So I was like, oh my God, I really can't remember the actual title of it. Let me look it up.
That's like
But
my worst nightmare.
yeah, the story itself was really good. I mean, you have the book, so I think it's
Oh,
like
it's in there.
yeah, I think it's
Okay.
like the first couple book stories in the book. But yeah, I kind of wish 1408 was a little scarier, and that would be a really cool, if not like horrifying, terrible movie to see.
Okay.
All right, Roger.
Well, as you know, but the listeners don't know, I was sent to a disciplinary military school when I was 14.
Bum bum
Bum,
bum.
Yeah, so the movie the book that I would like to see turned into a movie is The Institute.
Mm.
Because while that's not what The Institute is about, a lot of the things that were described in that book, I like super related to from my experience spending a year in a military school. Particularly like when the transporters came to get the main character whose name I'm sorry, I don't remember. When they like came in the middle of night to grab him and take him to that school. Like that's what they do when you get sent to military school. They send 2 big guys to your house, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they just grab you and they take you off. They didn't kill my parents like they do in the Institute. But I imagine it was a similar kind of feeling.
for an additional fee.
For all I know, they could have, because it's not like I saw them on my way out. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was happening. So they very well could have. And just different ways like the characters were treated there, and just some of the like terminology and just the atmosphere really gave me the feels. Plus, I just love the concept of The Shining. So anything with psychic kids, I want to see more of. I think it's actually being turned into a TV series already. So
Nice.
it's like I was saying, pretty much every King property that's like in existence that's worth its weight has already been turned into something, even if it's not something great.
Yeah, that's why it's really hard to find an answer to that question.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And a lot of them even have like 2 adaptations, so
Yeah.
it's a lot.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
that concludes our questions.
Yeah,
So,
nice.
Ryan, before we depart, what have you been up to, my friend? What are you going to be reading here next?
Yeah, we're gonna do a mini kind of movie theater butter popcorn.
Ah,
A little short.
so I've been kind of swaying into the world of the nonfiction these past couple crazy months. I've done a lot of reading on my white privilege and those kind of things. So I've done a lot of kind of personal growth kind of stuff, which for me was kind of a new wheelhouse. I've always read for fun, not read for like, to make me not an asshole. So I have a couple books that I are on my next list, but nothing in the realm of horror. Although The Institute is definitely something I wanted to check out.
I would,
So
yeah.
that was probably I think that'll be my next King venture, is probably that book.
If you want, I could loan it to you. I don't know if you were planning on buying it or not, but if you don't want to, I can loan it to you.
Yeah, I'm weird with buying books. I like them. I like books, right?
Same.
But so what I typically do is I'll buy a hardcover, but I like to read a paperback. So
Yeah.
a lot of times I'll have like 2 copies of a book. So I think I think I would love to borrow it, but if I'll probably end up with it anyway at some point.
Well, mine's hardcover anyway, so you might as well buy a soft cover to read, and then I'm weird like that too. Even if I listen to something on audiobook, I'll go out and I'll buy the physical copy for my shelf.
Yeah, it's nice. I think a bookshelf is a beautiful thing, man, Yeah.
There it is.
Mandy, what do you have planned for the future?
What do you have planned
I'm
for
a
the future,
freak.
Mandy?
And I kind of read more than one book at a time. So I'm on 2 different books right now. They're actually 2 series. I'm like 80% done with The Passage by Justin Cronin. That's a trilogy. It's post-apocalyptic with like vampires.
Nice.
Kind of like they're creepy, but it's pretty neat. And the other series that I'm reading is it actually was like an omnibus of like short stories, but they got put into 3 like novel size ones. They're by Hugh Howey. They're Wool, Shift, and Dust. They're also post-apocalyptic. It's really hard to explain, but it's kind of like the government made an ark for humans, and it's just kind of like there are people inside and it deals with them.
That arc thing reminded me of the movie
People are living. I can't give away too much because they're really, really interesting books.
Okay.
And they're depressing, but they're very good. And then for TV wise, we just started watching season 2 of Hill House.
Yes.
So The Haunting of Bly Manor. We're on episode 4 right now.
Halfway through.
We're gonna be watching that tonight, probably, or maybe I will. I don't know what time it is.
9:15.
Yeah. So maybe I'll just watch it. And that's good. It's not as scary as the first season, but it's definitely good. We've spent the first 3 episodes guessing what we thought was going to happen.
Would you describe the show as positively splendid?
Yes.
Positively splendid.
Um, I'm also obviously watching Bly Manor, Haunting of Bly Manor. Very excited. I think we're on episode 3 or 4 as well. So we're about at the same spot. And I'm about 1/3 of the way through The Stand. Stephen King's
Nice.
Stand, yep.
That's a long one.
Yeah. Yep, sure is. I want to finish.
Which version do you have? The like?
I have the big one.
Yes.
The super extended, extra
Beautiful.
deluxe.
Also, great graphic novels too.
I heard that. Yeah, I heard.
Yeah.
There's a Dark Tower graphic novel series that I want to get into as well.
I will let you borrow it if you'd
Focus
like.
like a
Oh, you have it?
Beautiful. Absolutely.
Oh my god. Because
Yeah.
I started the Gunslinger, but I haven't finished it yet.
It's
I've
fun.
got like 3 King books going. I'm still working on If It Bleeds, I guess. I have the first Dark Tower and The Stand all going right now, but
Nice.
What is a bigger book? Is it in hardcover or The Stand in hardcover? Because I know they're both huge.
The extended Stand is bigger.
Yeah,
Is bigger.
it adds a lot.
I don't actually own that one. I was trying to think of how big the copy of it was and
Big.
compare it to what I've seen from The Stand.
Big. It's big. The Stand is bigger. I want to finish it before the series comes out. The new Stand. I don't know what channel it's on. Probably HBO or Amazon Prime or something. Oh, he's got.
I mean, this is it, but this is that fine print.
Oh, so it
Yeah.
automatically has
Oh, man,
probably
it's-
like
it's
300
insane.
more pages than normal.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like microfiche on microfiche. Don't have a copy of The Stand here. It's in my parents' basement with a lot of my books.
I was gonna say this is my copy. That I think it's.
Oof.
Like that's a chunky monkey right
Yo,
there.
Schwartz is bigger than mine.
Schwartz is bigger than mine.
That's a heavy ass book.
Anyway, to conclude this bonus episode of the Wayward Sons, Roger, do you want to tell our?
Are you doing anything?
Am I doing anything?
Yeah.
Well,
What are you doing?
I'll have you know that I have big things planned.
Oh,
Since the last
All right.
2 episodes we've done, I've said I wanted to get on the bandwagon.
oh, dramatic pause by frozen screen.
To be playing some Squadrons.
Oh yes.
I didn't even realize you got that.
Yeah.
When
Yes.
did you get that?
Today.
Oh.
I noticed you didn't buy it for the PlayStation 4.
I did not. However, I have been thinking, well, Roger and I have been thinking about doing some Twitch streams of video games.
Yeah, we're looking
Nice.
into it.
What kind of games?
And-
What do you guys play?
Well,
I would
I
probably
am
do a
thinking
lot-
about streaming Squadrons
Yeah.
for
Uh-huh.
now. But I've also been thinking about streaming Until Dawn, a
Love it.
playthrough of that,
Beautiful
or
game.
maybe even the last one of those for October.
Last of Us, yeah.
He could do a stream of me trying to play Outlast. That's really funny.
Oh man. And I'd probably do like mostly indie horror games.
Nice.
I'm not even sure which ones yet. And also, speaking of Until Dawn, the new game in that series comes out, I think Halloween, called Little Hope.
Ooh.
Cool.
So, Mandy, I remember when you bought Until Dawn, and we all stayed up all night watching you play it.
And played
Yeah.
the
Until
whole
Dawn
thing
even.
all the way through.
Yeah, played
So
the
I
whole
bought
game
my
through
I
Until
bought
Dawn.
my PlayStation 4. We took it home. I bought Until Dawn with it because I got
And I remember when we found out that the monster was a Wendigo, and I lost my shit. Oh,
and I think
yeah.
my goal was to like kill everybody. I really didn't want to keep people alive because I'm just a jerk. So I was like, no, kill her.
Well, there's some
Nice.
characters in there that are like, all right, well, you can go.
Yeah. So it took
Yeah.
us like what 6 hours to finish the games. We sat on the couch the whole time. I think we took like 2 pee breaks and like got a snack and sat there and played the
Oh,
game
that's awesome.
straight through.
We should find a. Oh no, we can't do that now. Never mind.
We're too
gonna say,
old.
We should
We
find a
can't
way
do
to do
that
that with
stuff
Little
now.
Hope, but with the babies, I don't know about all that.
We'll see. We're gonna work it all out. We'll
Yeah.
figure it all out.
Yeah, but I'll probably stream that too when that comes out. So,
Nice.
all right.
Wonderful.
At the end of our episodes, we do a little sign off. We do a countdown and say carry on. You guys want to get in on it?
I'd love to.
All right, let's do
All
it.
right.
3, 2, 1.
Carry
Carry
on.
on.